Chapter 16. A man who was over and a truck in the forest. Before that day, when the dour and slightly fumbling boy with a muscular body and the sad blue eyes sat down beside Sonia on the train, there were really only three things she loved unconditionally in her life: books, her father, and cats. She'd obviously had quite a lot of attention. It wasn't that. The suitors had come in all shapes and sizes, tall and dark, or short and blonde, and fun loving and dull and elegant and boastful and handsome and greedy. And if they hadn't been slightly dissuaded by the stories in the village of Sonia's father keeping one or two firearms in the isolated wooden house out there in the woods, they would most likely have been a bit pusher too. But none of them had looked at her the way that boy looked at her when he sat down beside her on the train, as if she was the only girl in the world. Sometimes, especially in the first few years, some of her girlfriends questioned the choice she had made. Sonia was very beautiful, as the people around her seemed to find it so important to keep telling her. Furthermore, she loved to laugh, and whatever life threw at her, she was the sort of person who took a positive view of it. But Ove was, well, Ove was Ove, something which the people around her also kept telling Sonia. He'd been a grumpy old man since he started junior school, they insisted, and she could have someone so much better. But to Sonia, Ove was never dour and awkward and sharp edged. To her, he was the slightly disheveled pink flowers at their first dinner. He was his father's slightly too tight fitting brown suit across his broad set shoulders. He believed so strongly in things: justice and fair play and hard work and a world where right just had to be right. Not so one could get a medal or a diploma or a slap on the back for it, but just because that was how it was supposed to be. Not many men of his kind were made anymore. Sonia had understood. So she was holding on to this one. Maybe he didn't write her poems or serenade her with songs or come home with expensive gifts. But no other boy had gone the wrong way on the train for hours every day just because he liked sitting next to her while she spoke. And when she took hold of his lower arm, thick as her thigh, and tickled him until that sulky boy's face opened up in a smile, it was like a plaster cast cracking round a piece of jewelry. And when this happened, it was as if something started singing inside Sonia. And they only belonged to her, those moments. She didn't get angry with him that first night they had dinner when he told her he'd lied about his military service. Of course, she got angry with him on an immeasurable number of occasions after that, but not that night. They say the best men are born out of their faults, and that they often improve later on more than if they'd never done anything wrong, she said gently. Who said that? Asked Ove, and looked at the triple set of cutlery in front of him on the table, the way one might look at a box that had just been opened while someone said, "Choose your weapon." Shakespeare, said Sonia. Is that any good? Ove wondered. It's fantastic, Sonia nodded, smiling. I've never read anything with him, mumbled Ove into the tablecloth. By him, Sonia corrected and lovingly put her hand on his. In their almost 4 decades together, Sonia taught hundreds of pupils with learning difficulties to read and write, and she got them to read Shakespeare's collected works. In the same period, she never managed to make Ove read a single Shakespeare play, but as soon as they moved into their terraced house, she spent every evening for weeks on end in the tool shed. And when he was done, the most beautiful bookcases she had ever seen were in their living room. You have to keep them somewhere, he muttered and poked a little cut on his thumb with the tip of a screwdriver. And she crept into his arms and said that she loved him, and he nodded. She only asked once about the burns on his arms, and she had to piece together the exact circumstances of how he lost his parental home from the succinct fragments on offer when Ove reluctantly revealed that had happened. In the end, she found out how he got the scars, and when one of her girlfriends asked why she loved him, she answered that most men ran away from an inferno, but men like Ove ran into it. Ove did not meet Sonia's father more times than he could count on his fingers. The old man lived a long way north, a good way into the forest, almost as if he had consulted a map of all the population centers in the country before concluding that this was as far from other people as one could live. Sonia's mother died in the maternity bed. Her father never remarried. I have a woman. She's just not home at the moment. He spat out the few times anyone dared bring up the question. Sonia moved to the local town when she started studying for her upper secondary examinations, all in humanities subjects at a sixth form college. Her father looked at her with boundless indignation when she suggested that he might like to come with her. What can I do there? Meet folk? He growled. He always spoke the word folk as if it was a swear word. So Sonia let him be. Apart from her weekend visits and his monthly trip in the truck to the grocery store in the nearest village, he only had Ernest for company. Ernest was the biggest farm cat in the world. When Sonia was small, she actually thought he was a pony. He came and went in her father's house as he pleased, but he didn't live there. Where he lived, in fact, was not known to anyone. Sonia named him Ernest after Ernest Hemingway. Her father had never bothered with books, but when his daughter sat reading the newspaper at the age of 5, he wasn't so stupid that he tried to avoid doing something about it. A girl can't read shit like that. She'll lose her head, he stated as he pushed her towards the library counter in the village. The old librarian didn't quite know what he meant by that, but there was no doubt about the girl's quite outstanding intellect. The monthly trip to the grocery store simply had to be extended to a monthly trip to the library. The librarian and father decided together, without any particular need to discuss it further, By the time Sonia passed her 12th birthday, she had read all the books at least twice. The ones she liked, such as The Old Man and the Sea, she'd read so many times that she'd lost count. So Ernest ended up being called Ernest, and no one owned him. He didn't talk, but he liked to go fishing with her father, who appreciated his qualities. They would share the catch equally once they got home. The first time Sonia brought Ove out to the old wood house in the forest, Ove and her father sat in button-up silence opposite each other, staring down at their food for almost an hour, while she tried to encourage some form of civilized conversation. Neither of the two men could quite understand what they were doing there, apart from the fact that it was important to the only woman either of them cared about. They had both protested about the whole arrangement insistently and vociferously, but without success.